Hey everyone, welcome to Ryan Reviews. So today is a special edition with my good friend and co-host of the Cinik Radio Podcast, Cinik, joining me. So Cinik, how are you doing?
Hey, Ryan, I'm happy to be here. Glad to help out, and I can't wait to talk about the show.
Yeah, so it's funny. So today we're talking about The Bear, and it's interesting because we co-host a podcast weekly together. We talk regularly about what we're gonna talk about and what shows we're gonna review, and somehow either The Bear never came up or it did come up and I just didn't think about it. And so it was just kind of a coincidence that we both were watching The Bear and loved it and almost decided, well, we got to talk about this thing.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I mean, this is one of the best new shows to come along in a long time. Perfectly acted, written, and just well done.
Yeah. So now, did you watch season 1 in real time, or were you like me where you were just kind of binging it recently?
Yeah, no, I'm late to the party on it.
Okay.
I've only caught it in the about middle second season.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So same. We basically started it like a week ago, and so maybe that's also why. Like, I know I saw you post something on Facebook. I was like, oh wow, you're watching it too. I'm watching it, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. But anyway, let's get to the review. So we're gonna do the review like my other reviews, which is basically we'll do 5 categories. Each category is 2 points each. We talked about it ahead of time. So we're gonna start up with the story. So what were your thoughts on the story for The Bear?
Listen, it's a tough story. I mean, it's beautifully told,
Yeah.
but it's not a feel-good story.
Yeah.
You'll get some laughs in this, but it is absolutely a hard watch. It'll play with you emotionally, and if you have any unresolved feelings about family, it's definitely going to bring that stuff up.
Yeah, it's like a show about like trauma, really at the end of the day, and it was really well done because I feel like the story it's not complicated, right? There's not, I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot of dynamics going on. There's a lot going on in interpersonal dynamics. There's a lot going on in between people, and there are a lot of characters, but it's not a convoluted, crazy story that we might think of when we think of kind of high concept TV at this point. Like, it's very straightforward, but like things just are always going wrong, and it's almost like overwhelming how much like things just can't go right for them at different times, and it just feels like the weight of the world is on everybody's shoulder. But I also found it like, it was interesting to see the kind of the relationship dynamics, the way they called each other cousin, how they interact with each other, how they would just say the worst thing in the world to each other, and then like 20 minutes later it's the same. Is that something that like you can resonate with friends and or family, or is that kind of foreign, the way that they all interacted with each other?
I mean, more so with friends than family. Like I stated previously, I have unresolved family issues. So, of course, it hit me harder than it would most. But yeah, with close friends, I'm able to be brutally honest like that. And I kind of appreciate that. I wish I actually had more of that in my life where people told me, hey, you're full of shit. Because, sometimes I am.
Yeah. And I think another thing they do a really good job of, and I tried to read a little bit about it, is I love when something takes you into the world of like a profession, or something that we're not directly involved in, and makes it feel real and makes it feel like something that's interesting. Because I think any world you're in is unique, and from what I understand, it gets a lot of what it's like being in a kitchen, and I just love that aspect of it. And I think it was weaved in well. Like, it never felt like it was just tossed in there. It really felt like, okay, this is the chaos of being in a kitchen, and for a lot of these people, it almost extends out from the kitchen into their everyday lives. Or I don't know, it's like a chicken or the egg thing, but like they all see, it seems like their lives are as chaotic as the kitchen is. And I guess maybe that's made, that's the effect, that's what it's supposed to be.
Well, who knew the best 2 shows to come along in a long time, which would be Ted Lasso and this, would take you to areas that you would never assume that you need to hear the full story of. The inner workings of a high-end kitchen really never kind of came across my radar, or did I think about it? You sit down, you order, and the food shows up, and hopefully in a timely manner, and what you ordered, and you pay, you eat, you pay, you go home, and you enjoy. But this really took an in-depth look, and it really makes you appreciate what the people in the service industry have to go through.
Absolutely. So for story, out of 2, what do you give it?
I'd absolutely give it a 2.
Yeah, me too. I think they were able to manage it really well. Also, another thing, it's just so well written. The dialogue, the way, and it's not overwritten. I think that's another really interesting thing with the show, is that a lot of similar shows, I think, might try a little too hard, and it never feels like that. It just feels like it was just perfectly written. Everything, it's just nuanced and just right, and not like they're trying too hard. All right, so next up is performances. So what are your what I mean, I think we both agree that there are some phenomenal performances top to bottom.
Well, I'm not
What were
gonna
some
lie.
standouts for you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Jeremy Allen White is the reason I watched the show. I
Okay.
absolutely loved him in Shameless, and I figured, all those kids, the next time they get a project, I'm gonna follow them because
Yeah.
they hammered it during those shows. So he was what brought me into the show, but then it became so much more. I mean, a bunch of no-name actors who I believe really are going to be household names after this kind of sucked me in, and then we got to the second season, and the guest stars were just a murderer's row of famous people and great performers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it feels like, so it's funny. I was a little different. I watched Shameless. I was not the biggest Jeremy Allen fan. Like, I think he was perfectly fine in it, but I didn't come to it because of him. But I thought he was great in this, and also like just a different character than Lip, and that was really great to see, that range and just him playing a completely different person. There were a lot of similarities, I think, thematically in how the show runs to Shameless, but it really was like, I mean, it's amazing. Like, there's just so many great performances in the show. I don't, in this episode, we can't do justice to everything, but I mean, the Lionel Boyce as Marcus is amazing. Io Debris, I'm probably mispronouncing your name, is phenomenal and a standout. Richie, he was amazing. I mean, just top to bottom, you just have amazing performances, and more importantly to me, is the chemistry. I think everybody just had phenomenal chemistry with each other. And you're right, a great point out that like it's almost like this must have been a show that lots of actors loved and wanted to be on, because it was like a murderer's row of guest stars for the entire season. Everybody seeming like they just loved, whatever time they had on camera. But yeah, performances were great. What would you say maybe is was there a standout performance for you, something that just like blew you away?
That's hard because episode 6 of the second season, every single person. I mean, even the guy from the dorky dad from the Progressive commercials, he hammered it home. I mean, it was just it was an incredible, it was almost like a battle royal in there of acting. And I couldn't pick a performance, but I may have to give a slight nod to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Okay,
because, her as Donna just absolutely hammered it.
Yeah, she's great. But you're right. I think, I mean, you could pick any of like 20 people literally in the show as standouts and you wouldn't be wrong. So top to bottom, I think performance is great. So performances, I'm giving it a 2, and I'm guessing you're giving it a 2 as well.
Absolutely on board over the 2.
All right. So next up, we're talking audio visual. So give me some thoughts, anything that stands out to you as far as like soundtrack, music, visuals. What do you think of the audio visual with this?
Well, anybody that knows me or listens to our show knows I'm an absolute audiophile as far as when it comes to music, from Radiohead to REM, and they even started an episode with 9 Inch Nails, which I thought was just fucking, it made me smile, and I had to rewind it 3 or 4 times to hear the day the world went away. Just the opening chords of it, fantastic. And as far as visual, just the cuts to the food and them cutting it and then to each other, and I really enjoy watching this show. I mean, they really kind of amp the tension up with the music and the sights.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think they had a lot of like, I was a big Pearl Jam fan growing up. I'm not as big of a fan now, but like, there's a lot of really good Pearl Jam. They really use Animal to good effect.
Tell me that wasn't fucking perfect the way they did that.
Oh, it's just
when that song started, I got so hyped for that.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. Several times. I love what they did with the music. I think they did a phenomenal job. And visually, I mean, throughout the show is shot well. Obviously, the food stuff is great. It's good as almost anything I've seen on TV as how they shot the food. But also just there was just some great cinematography throughout, especially the last episode. There was a couple of really long single takes where it's like, you've got the chaos. Like there's a lot of, I can imagine there's a lot of choreography going on with directing the kitchen scenes. I mean, just with everything that's going on. And there are several really impressive long takes where who knows how much time they must have spent, planning that out and choreographing it and rehearsing it to get it right. But it was just done brilliantly. So I think that, and there was a sense of when it needed a sense of claustrophobia. There was a sense of claustrophobia when needed a sense of chaos. There was a sense of chaos. So I think they did a really, really, really great job visually with the show. And again, like everything else for me so far, that gets a 2. I'm guessing 2 from you as well.
Oh, without a doubt, 2. Yeah.
All right, so next up is the feels. So with the feels, this category, it's basically like, does it make you feel something? It could be humor, it could be anger, sadness, whatever it is. So what are your thoughts? Like, what did this show make you feel, and was it intense when it did make you feel?
Well, I got to tell you, after the first episode, I wasn't sure if I was going to hang in because it was a little too fast paced. It was a little too deep as far as the kitchen stuff. The repetition of chef over and over again before I understood it kind of put me off. I did enjoy the pace of the episode, but I thought, oh, if we're going to be in a kitchen the whole time, I'm not sure if I'm going to stay. So after that, though, the story took off. I fell in love with a lot of the characters. And then, I don't post very often on social media, but after watching season 2, episode 6, I just sat there wondering what the hell that I just watched. Why do I feel the way I feel? It really felt like you were sitting in the dining room with all those people having dinner, and they couldn't have done it much better. So definitely with the feels, it gave me the 2. But I'll tell you, if you're easily triggered, I'm not sure if The Bear is the show for you.
So now, what are your thoughts on like season 1? I felt like season 1 was almost too much. Like it felt like Shameless on steroids, as far as like with Shameless, how it's always tension and there's always something going wrong. And like, even when there's that little moment where they maybe take a half a step forward, something knocks them 12 steps back. And I felt like season 1 was that, like, it was just constant. It was overwhelming at times. And as much as I loved it, it was just hard to watch. Where season 2 kind of took its foot off the gas on that until episode 6. So I think episode 6, where you get all of it in that one episode. But before episode 6, it's kind of okay. There's the beautiful stuff with Marcus in Copenhagen, and it seems like, okay, this is working well. We're watching his relationship, watching Marcus's relationship build. Like, it almost like, it's like, oh, this is like a good show. Like, decent things are happening. Yeah, some stuff is going wrong, but it's not nearly as tense. What were your thoughts on how they basically put all that tension into the back end of the season versus season 1, where it was just in your face the whole time?
Well, I mean, that's what it is growing up poor, right? Shameless and this, you're kind of living without a safety net.
Yeah.
Anything that could go wrong could be the end game. The power is going to go off, the water is going to be shut off, you don't have enough meat to serve lunch, so you can't keep the restaurant open. So I kind of appreciated the realism in that. And I appreciated the realism in Shameless because, my family was in a lot of bad situations growing up. So I kind of understood that. But as far as like kind of the travel episode with Marcus and Luca, I mean, I'm not a big fan of destination shows. I'm not a big fan of one-offs. But I really love that. There was something super intimate about that whole episode.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple moments. I'm going to talk about my one later when we get to like our favorite moments, but or favorite episodes. But like, the great thing about the show is, as much as it could capture that tension and that chaos, it really had some beautiful, tender moments and episodes, and that was one of them. It's like, I'm different from you. I know we've talked about this before. Like, I love bottle episodes, and that wasn't quite a bottle episode, but in a way it was, because it really was mostly focused on Marcus, and even though it's part of the main story, it's kind of its own thing. But I just love how it can capture those tender and warm moments, and when it comes to like the feels as a category, it makes you feel so many different things, and that's what the show did a great job of. It's like, there are moments where you just feel unimaginable tension and anxiety, and then there's moments where it's just hysterically funny, and moments where you're getting the sadness and the moments of humor and triumph. It really, like, it's one of the shows that it's able to nail those different emotions perfectly, which very few shows can do that. Some will get you to cry, or some will get you to feel triumph or happy or sadness, whatever, but this just, it could hit whatever notes it needed to hit throughout. And I thought that was really impressive in watching a show, especially in binging it, because you're going through this like emotional roller coaster throughout. So for me, I'm giving the feels a 2 again. What's your rating?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, even if we take episode 6, which I thought was by far the best episode, it was something every single episode. And I couldn't believe that they actually even snuck humor in there. Like when he walked outside and the one of the assistant chefs was smoking a crack, and he just walked out and he's like, "Oh, that's wild." I couldn't stop laughing at that. I couldn't stop. I think I got to fire you. I don't know. I got to go check.
Yeah. No,
fantastic.
No, amazing. All right, and then last part is internal logic and consistency. So for this rating, it's just like, are there nitpicks? Were the things logically that didn't make sense to you? What were your thoughts?
Well, kind of like I brought up at dinner, I wasn't quite sure about the location of the restaurant that they were going to put in. And I mean, it's a slight thing. I wasn't quite sure about the sandwich window that they were trying to put in, because this looked like a 3 or 4 star restaurant. So I was like, are they trying to service the community? How would that work? I mean, you're going to have, upper middle class people coming to the restaurant and lower class people standing at the sandwich line. I didn't quite understand how that was going to work. But no, I thought consistency and logic, I thought they stayed on brand. They stayed on point.
This is the one area where I take a little bit off. I'm personally, I give it a 1.5. Not bad. I did feel like it required a lot of suspension of disbelief, because I think, when you have so many things go wrong, like you can't just climb your way out of that hole. And I think for that's where it got me a little bit, or like the things with the uncle, like just kind of, oh yeah, sure, take more money, yeah, sure, you have this much, take more of it. Like it was a little like, okay, I like some of that required a little suspension of disbelief. So it's not major criticism, but
so you're not on board with finding $300,000 in marinara cans.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, it was a little bit of a stretch. Like imagine, like, what if one of the workers found that money and it's like, oh wait, there's just money hanging out here, like just like a little bit, and that like, okay, they had enough money to send people to culinary school and send them there, but then they're having this random, they're having, the friend who clearly is not a plumber or electrician or gas technician, fixing up the gas for the most important thing in the world is this fire safety test, and why not hire professionals? So it felt like there were certain decisions they made, like clearly they had enough money to do some things, but then why would you not have enough to do like the one thing that's going to make or break the show? So like, or your restaurant. So I think that's where I give it a little bit of a ding, is like not quite there for me, but it wasn't, at the same time, it wasn't so much that like I was like sitting, fuming about it because it was such a dumb decision or something. So for me, 1.5. What are your logic consistency rating?
No, I would probably stick with the 2. I mean, this is going to be a sweetheart review for me, because I can't find much wrong with the show other than the fact that it traumatized me for the better part of the day and while we were out to dinner.
All right, so now we're gonna get to our favorite episode. So, well, I guess before we get to that, so so you give it a 10, I give it a 9.5. High praise, obviously. So now we'll get to a little bit more spoilers. I know we've already spoiled some stuff, but now if you want to talk more spoilers, feel free to, although not necessary. So, what was your favorite episode? I think we know already, but tell me more about why it was your favorite episode.
Just because it gave you such a deep dive into who all the characters are, and why Michael might have killed himself, and why the siblings, the Bear siblings. One thing I'm not crazy about is them all calling each other Bear. Usually one person gets the nickname. It's not shared amongst the family. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, write in and tell Ryan that he is a terrible co-host, but them calling each other Bear was a little annoying to me. But after meeting their mother, you understand everything about these characters. So probably episode 6. But I can say that I really liked the exposition in the final episode of season 2 as well. Just him being trapped in the walk-in freezer, and the fact that he's kind of spilling his guts and not realizing that basically the love of his life is on the other side of the door. Because how many relationships, Ryan, would survive that? Like if you just spilled out every single one of your innermost fears to your wife, that's a lot. It's heavy.
Yeah, and I was actually, so I think episode 6 is brilliant and deserves the high praise and deserves to be what it is, and is one of the great episodes of TV. It's on that level with like the Ozymandias episode of Breaking Bad, and like Blackwater of Game of Thrones. It's on that list of like the great episodes of TV. My favorite though was actually episode 10. Partly because it has that really that it has what maybe is my favorite moment in the series, which is that moment where Marcus they're fixing the table, and it's just a really tender, sweet moment where they're just sitting there and they're just being honest, and they just have such a great relationship. And just to watch them sit and just be honest with each other, it's like it just felt one of the most real and just warm moments in anything I've seen. It really, really tugged at the heartstrings, that scene. And then to get to that chaos at the end, and like the cinematography there, and then the music, and then him getting locked in the freezer. And yeah, that feeling of like, oh yeah, I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, like, he's got to make a choice. Like, to be great at what he is means he has to be 100% focused on that, which means it's not compatible with a relationship. And then he's spilling his guts to her, and her reaction, it's just, and and Richie,
Oof.
him kind of all of a sudden taking over. It was just, there were so many layers to that episode, that as great as 6 was, I think this might have been just slightly by a hair my favorite episode.
That fight with Richie hurt me.
Yeah.
Because they went right, it started
Yeah.
out like just like any old argument, and then they
Yeah.
went right at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And when he called him his mom's name, I was I was surprised that Carmi didn't punch through the freezer to get at him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's just, again, showing trauma, like dealing with his mom, and then the trauma that his the teacher, his chef, clearly left to him, because he sees the guy and then just panics and freaks, and like, and then can't handle it. And so, and
But
so
I don't think it was actually him.
Yeah, you're right. It might not have been him. And
just just seeing someone that looked like him set him off.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just it was incredible. Like, so I feel like that episode, there was so much going on in that episode that, again, I love both. You can't go wrong with either, but that may have been my favorite. So now, last thing, your MVP of the show.
It's got to be Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, even though they gave him a tremendous amount of help in season 2, the season 1 was completely carried by him. And it was funny. I saw a meme not too long ago that said, "Who knew that seeing Jeremy Allen White would struggling in Chicago would become its own subgenre?" So I thought that was pretty clever, because it really has been. Yeah, I think it would definitely have to be him. He's the standout. He's the star, and he carried the whole of season 1.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he's definitely up there. I would give it to Io Edebiri. I think she was like the glue that held the show together, and I just loved her own chemistry with everybody. I think she had a different dynamic with everyone, and each one worked well. And I just think she's just really charming. She's kind of one of those, magnetic figures on the screen. You just want to watch her on the screen, and listen to her talk the whole time. And I feel like that, as much as, it's Jeremy Allen's show, and it's about him, I think it's equally about her. And I think she's just as important as he is. I think does an amazing job with the show, and making you kind of root for her, even though you can see, like, she's got their issues, and she's got her kind of like anxiety and her nervous energy, and this kind of obsession with things. But I think it really makes that show work. So I would give it to her, but you can't go wrong with either. So yeah, so your final score is 10. Give me your final thoughts on the show.
Well, it's interesting that you bring them all. We both picked both, because they are kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the neat part of about the writing in the show is that they do feed off each other.
Yeah.
When she's calm, he's calm, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I mean, the ensemble is perfect. Really, you can't go wrong watching the show. And the first season, the episodes were rather short, so I was able to kind of catch up, rewatch, and then catch up to current within like a day or two, because I've been off work with very little to nothing to do. But other than I have to take a break after episode 6, it really is a bingeable show, and it is well worth your time and very entertaining.
So a high recommend on
I would recommend it to just about anybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I my wife watched season 1 and was begging me to watch it, and I just kept refusing. I don't know why, but yeah, it's an amazing show. Highly recommended. Definitely watch it. It's fun, and yeah, like you said, it's short episodes, so it's not a huge commitment. But again, genuinely funny. It will make you feel things. If it is traumatic and it is stressful. So if you're somebody who has a hard time with stressful shows, just know that going in. You maybe watch one episode at a time, and just be ready, because the last episode of season 1 is insane. Last episode of season 2 is insane, and episode 6 of season 2 is another level of insane. But yeah, highly recommended. And thanks again, Cinik, for joining me on the podcast. Hope we can do more of these, because it's fun kind of doing this with somebody versus doing it on my own. But thanks a lot for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, leave a review.
We can be found on all social media platforms at portable_whole. We can be found on all podcast platforms at Portable Whole Publishing. We can be found on the web at portablewholepublishing.com, and you can email us at portablewholepub@gmail.com.